Welcome to The Sports Answer with Rudy Campos Jr. From the latest NBA news to the gridiron and beyond, we are diving deep into the headlines that matter most to you. Today's show is proudly brought to you by Salem Surround San Antonio, your local experts in digital marketing and audience connection. Before we break the huddle, do me a huge favor. Head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Answer Now TV. Don't miss a single highlight, interview, or heated debate. The clock is ticking and the game is on. Let's go.
Hey, good Sunday morning, Sports Answer fans. Rudy Campos Jr. here for the Sports Answer, part of Answer Now TV. Be sure to go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button on Answer Now TV, where you can get the Sports Answer. Plus, you can also get Spurs in Focus, new podcast by Jeff Garcia, as well as a lot of other great shows, part of the Answer Now TV. And guess what? We are sponsored by Salem Surround, 210-526-3635. You need that business kick, and you need to get into the right direction. You want to go to the top of the mountain. Salem Surround, 210-526-3635. Go to salemsurround.com/San Antonio to get your business on the right path. Get with Salem Surround today. Digital marketing needs everything you need. They're going to make sure you are the grand champion of all businesses out there. What do we got today? Well, MLB is obviously kicked off. And, we're going through the first, week or so of MLB. We're going to talk a little bit about MLB at the end of the show here. We've had this debate, myself and Derek Irvin, a few times. And at the time, we were still kind of iffy about it. But we're going to look at the GOAT talk for MLB. You talk about Babe Ruth, you talk about Barry Bonds. But then are we witnessing the actual GOAT in real time when it comes to Shohei Ohtani? I'm going to save that answer for when we do talk about it at the end of the show, because to me, not only is Ohtani already one of the greatest players of all time, but I think overall, he's probably one of the better persons of all time. What does that mean? We'll get to that here in a little bit. Plus a ton of NBA talk. We've got the Spurs Cheeseman. Our Spurs Cheeseman revolves around our Iceman compared to somebody who wants to be the new Iceman. Plus, award winners this year for the NBA. San Antonio Spurs have 3 guys right now that are basically fighting for an award, one of them being Coach Mitch Johnson, Keldon Johnson, and also Victor Wembanyama, who is arguably going to be easily the defensive player of the year, but it's the MVP award that we've been looking at lately. We'll see where he's risen on that. Spurs fans, you are playoff eligible. You are the number 2 seed in the league. We're going to get into that talk as well. Plus, we're going to go over our all NBA teams and see where some of your Spurs may land on the all NBA teams. That is what everything we've got here on the Sports Answer. You know what? Let's get into some quick March Madness talk. All right, congratulations to the University of Illinois and congratulations to the University of Arizona. They've already punched their tickets into the Final Four. We've got, I believe it's Duke UConn today, which I believe I've got UConn winning that matchup. And then you've also got Tennessee and Michigan. I would definitely have Michigan in that game right there. Final Four the March Madness has been great. I've enjoyed a lot of it. You haven't seen a whole lot of Cinderella teams, unless you want to call the Texas Longhorns a Cinderella team, which last week when we talked, we said they're, like Sean Miller said, they're not a Cinderella team. They play in the SEC. They should never be considered a Cinderella team. Cinderella teams we think are kind of teams like High Point, stuff like that have actually won the first round and kind of moved on. But this season, we're seeing not really any Cinderella teams. We talked about last week saying how the NIL, how that might affect it, and maybe we'll be starting to see a lot of these, lower end Division I teams come about. Could still happen. I mean, you could have a 5-star athlete who just isn't getting great playing time, go to a lower end Division I school, get paid some decent money, and lead them to probably a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 appearance. It could happen. We could see this change in NIL because we have seen it really in football. But for right now, the top teams are taking care of business. That I think it's still going to stay the same. I think Michigan does move on. I think, Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies do end up defeating Duke. Duke has looked very vulnerable this year, and I really expected them to lose St. John's in the last round, but they were able to pull it through. I had St. John's winning that game, moving it on to the Final Four, but nonetheless, it's going to be another great weekend of college basketball. We did have the Texas Longhorn women winning the national championship. We'll see how they do today in their matchup, as well as March Madness does kick off. Be sure to check out all the games. We'll discuss the Final Four next week here on the Sports Answer in more depth. We're going to move along real quick here. Again, Salem Surround, 210-526-3635. Let's get into our NBA talk here because we got a lot of NBA talk to get into. All right, so Spurs fans, let's get into some Spurs fans talk here. Be sure to drop comments. We are live here. We are live on Answer Now TV. You can drop the comments here. If you got any sports questions, leave them there. We'll definitely get to them here. Appreciate everybody joining us here on the live stream. So Spurs talk here. This isn't going to be our Spurs Cheesemas segment. We got Cheesemas later on for that. But they've already clinched the division. They've clinched the playoff spot. They've already clinched a top 2 seed. Now, Spurs fans, we've kind of seen on social media, we've kind of seen even in national media, when you've got guys on the big 4-letter network as well as other networks talking how San Antonio is the best team right now in the NBA. The Spurs should be making plans to make it to the NBA Finals. And a lot of people are crowning San Antonio as your next NBA champion. The sports question that we have is, should we start making plans for the NBA Finals? Are we getting too ahead of ourselves when it comes to this team is a title contending team? Let's look at the first box here. Can they compete for an NBA title? That is a definite check mark. They've proven it all year. A person like me who at the beginning of the season said, you know what? Denver is my NBA champion prediction this year, which the Nuggets still have an opportunity. I held the Nuggets team is difficult. But I also said the Spurs were going to win 44 games. That definitely is not going to happen. They're well above 44 wins. They're actually looking at 60 wins right now, which is a good amount, a massive turnaround. I also said they would be no higher than the 5th seed in the West. Prove me wrong there. So again, do they have a chance to be contenders? That check mark is there. We check that box. They have a good shot at it. Why? They have dominated the West. They've dominated the number 1 seed in the West. They've taken care of business on the number 1 seed in the East, as well as the number 2 with Boston. The Spurs have had very little difficulty this regular season. Since February 4th, they are 24-2, riding an 8-game winning streak. Coach Pop has always said, it's not how you're playing and that's not how you play the regular season. It's how you're playing going into the playoffs. And they are playing the best basketball heading into the playoffs. Let's check the other parts off. Dominant players. Well, Wemby's going to be your defensive player of the year. He's already top 2 in MVP voting. I'm glad that people are starting to realize and recognize what I was saying in the offseason on shows with Jeff Garcia, on shows with Derek Irvin, where I said the Spurs assembled the best coaching staff in the NBA. The front office and Mitch Johnson assembled the absolute best coaching staff in the league. Sean Sweeney is a defensive guru. Exactly what this team needed. It shows they're one of the better defenders in the league. You need toughness? You go get the big nasty and Corliss Williamson. Brings toughness. Brings NBA veteran leadership on the bench. Scorer. You had a good scorer in Rashad Lewis. Another great NBA veteran. Guys that have been battle tested, playoff tested. I mean, Mitch did a tremendous job putting this coaching staff together, and it shows. Are they mentally ready for the playoffs? You can check that off as a yes. They are. We saw the success of San Antonio at the beginning of the season and continue on. I questioned it. They don't have the mentality. They don't have the toughness. They're not playoff tested. I was saying that at the beginning of the season. Boy, have I really, really, really come off that ladder. And I'm thinking, wow, it doesn't matter if they're playoff tested. It matters how they're playing now. It matters if they can stay healthy. And it also matters that they've got a great support system in that coaching staff. Every time we've expected the Spurs to falter this season, they haven't. We were all waiting for the shoe to drop. We were all waiting for the door to close and to be locked. We were all waiting for the expected to happen, and it has not happened. It's okay to take off the doubt hat. I know I have. It's okay to say, you know what, this team can win an NBA title. I've started to come around to that. A healthy Spurs team is a damn near unbeatable Spurs team. If you want to go back to last week's show when I've talked about it, the biggest difference I've seen in this Spurs squad compared to every other team, every NBA title team that's competing this season, is they do not get rattled. I really go back to that game in Minnesota where they had a huge lead and lost it to the Timberwolves at the very end of the game. That was the awakening of the Giant. This Spurs team has played at an unbelievable level since then. They have not lost 2 games all season, more than 2 games all season. They've gone on huge winning streaks. When they've lost because maybe they lost focus, a la Minnesota. A team just got up and played extremely well, a la Phoenix at the beginning of the season. But when it came time to play the best teams in the league, they showed why they needed to be regarded as one of the best teams in the league. Go back and listen to last week's show when I've said it, and I'm going to continue to say it. This team is number one when it's calm, cool, and collective. They cannot be rattled. They are young, but they are tough. So, should we start making final plans? Like everything, barring injury, this Spurs team should represent the West in the NBA Finals. They've made adjustments all season. They've stayed together. After a loss, they know that they've lost. They understand what happened, and they come right back, and they make another statement. That's what you have to look at. When adversity hits, how do you respond? When your best player goes down, can you still win? All these boxes are checked. More NBA talk here. All NBA teams. So we've got players that are going to be ineligible for all NBA teams. One of them being Cade Cunningham is more likely going to be ineligible. Now, for me, I definitely had Victor, SGA, Nikola Jokic as my first team All NBA. There's no doubt about that at all. Then you're looking at guys like, obviously, Cade Cunningham should be All NBA first team with the way he's playing. I mean, he was playing MVP caliber basketball for majority of the year. But because of the 65 game eligibility rule, which is dumb, he's going to be ineligible more than likely to make All NBA, to win any awards. So Luka Doncic gets in there. Then it comes down to that last spot. Jaylen Brown, deservedly so. Up until maybe a few days ago, I had Kawhi Leonard as my fifth member of the All NBA team. But record speaks volume. The way the Celtics have been playing, number 2 seed in the East, 4.5 games back of Detroit, which I do not think they catch Detroit for the one. Jaylen Brown, definitely should be my fifth selection and will be my fifth selection for All NBA. Terribly sucks for Cade Cunningham. Should be All NBA. Should be first team All NBA. But because of, the collapse lung that he had, because he's going to miss a whole bunch of games, he's not going to be eligible. So my first team All NBA, Victor, Nikola, SGA, Luka Doncic, and Jaylen Brown. After that, you got second teams. You can throw Jalen Brunson in there. You're more likely to get Anthony Edwards. More likely he's going to be in there. LeBron James is not eligible anymore for any type of All NBA, any awards. Other guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo is not going to be eligible. Steph Curry, Embiid, a lot of the names that we normally see on there are not eligible anymore. Do you possibly see, Donovan Mitchell? Yes. Donovan Mitchell makes an All NBA team. Like we mentioned, Kevin Durant, he'll be eligible for All NBA. Who do you guys have as your All NBA teams this season? That is the question at hand. Who do you have? Before we go to our commercial break, let's run the Spurs Cheeseman. You want to do that? We'll run half the Cheeseman, and then we'll run the last part of the Cheeseman after the commercial break.
So, like I hear about the Spurs this y Spurs that, y como que esto y esta, pero I never hear about the real Spurs Cheeseman. Dime, por favor.
All right, Spurs Cheeseman number 1. We're going to do back-to-back Spurs Cheeseman here. So, as you can see, Keldon Johnson, he's one of the guys that's on the roster that's going to be vying for an NBA award this season, the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award. It comes down to him and Jaime Jaquez from Miami. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. It's going to be those two guys that are going to be 1 and 2 right now. When you look at Jaquez, they're 9th in the East right now. They're not doing really great. The impact that Jaime has, it's there, but it's not Keldon Johnson impact. A lot of people have been really upset because, first off, Wemby talked about why he deserved to be the MVP of the league. Then Keldon Johnson made a case for him to be Sixth Man of the Year. Dylan Harper, after an interview, walked away and said Keldon for Sixth Man of the Year. They're campaigning for the award. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care if Nikola Jokic gets on the stage and says, well, I should be MVP because I'm averaging a triple-double. Again, I've got a ton of 20 games this year. I don't care if players, campaign for an award. If it bothers you, you've got a lot more stuff going on in your life that you don't realize that's bothering you. Keldon Johnson deserves Sixth Man of the Year. He really does deserve Sixth Man of the Year. Without him, there are a few more losses on the Spurs schedule. He's been a very big focal point off the bench. He's the reason why the momentum from the starters continues when they are out for rest. Now, him and Dylan Harper are both the biggest reasons why. Dylan Harper will not get any love for Rookie of the Year with the way that Cooper Flagg and Colin Knueppel have been playing. But Dylan Harper's impact is not to go unnoticed. But is he Sixth Man of the Year? No. Keldon has provided the spark, not only this season, but in the tough seasons that the Spurs have faced and have had the past few years. There's no stronger case for Keldon being Sixth Man of the Year than there is this season. As much of a slam dunk as it is for Wemby to win Defensive Player of the Year, this should be a slam dunk for him to win the Sixth Man of the Year for Keldon Johnson. I am campaigning for him. Spurs fans are campaigning for him. National media guys that have that vote, it's time for you to stop campaigning for other guys and start looking at one player. The absolute second best team in the league should have the NBA Sixth Man of the Year on it. That's my thoughts on him. One more award before we go to commercial break is Coach Johnson equals Coach of the Year. This one, I get Bickerstaff for Detroit. He's probably the favorite. He's probably going to go in as winning that award. But Detroit last year was a playoff team. You know, that to me, that shows a lot there. Last year, they were a playoff team. They were a 6th seed last season. As the Spurs were, well, not even playoff eligible, not even playing eligible. So I get Bickerstaff. You know what? He's the number 1 seed in the East. He's this, he's that. Something that we talked about Wemby, how he could be the MVP of the league if they catch Oklahoma City for number 1. That's like the do all tell all there. They've got to catch Oklahoma City to get Wemby the MVP award. For Mitch Johnson, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I get JB Bickerstaff as being the number 1 favorite. But you went from a number 6 seed last year to a number 1 seed. Pretty big jump. But look at this. Look at the seeding this year when it comes to the Spurs. You go from a 34-win team, not even in the play-in, to potentially having the opportunity to be the number 1 overall seed in the dominant Western Conference. That is a bigger change than what JB Bickerstaff has done in Detroit. Now, yeah, Joe Mazzulla should get some love too. Hey, Spurs fans, go back to an old podcast when I said, when we were asked the question, should Becky Hammond take over for Coach Pop? I talked about that with Jeff Garcia on his show a long time, probably years ago. And I mentioned Charles Lee, who's now the coach for Charlotte, as the guy who I would have wanted to take over for San Antonio when Coach Pop retired. He even needs to get some credit for beating Charlotte into the play-in spot. But, you know, Joe Mazzulla, Charles Lee, a lot of guys should get credit. But it's Coach Johnson that made the biggest turnaround. Now, we can technically say a rookie head coach as he took over for Coach Pop majority of the year, but this was his first full off season with the team, and he hasn't disappointed. The Spurs should be able to make a run long enough to have Mitch Johnson win the Coach of the Year. Think about that. They've put up ungodly numbers this year. Look at the players. I mean, one player in particular, and it's never a knock to Coach Pop, greatest coach of all time in NBA history, one of the greatest coaches of all time in any sport. But Devin Vassell, under Coach Pop, was your average player. Under Coach Mitch, he's a different player. You see the emergence of a lot of players under Coach Mitch Johnson and his staff. As we checkmarked everything earlier as to why you should be excited for his finals run for San Antonio, the same check marks apply for Coach Mitch Johnson to be Coach of the Year. Spurs went from 34 wins to almost hitting 60. They're sitting at, 56 wins right now. That is a massive turnaround. Already plus 22 game turnaround from a year ago. I know the media loves JB Bickerstaff for Coach of the Year because Detroit's number 1 in the East, but they were a playoff team last year. They went from bottom feeder to playoff team to number 1 seed. You're talking about a coach who's been a part of a staff that went through the dark times of 22 win seasons. So let's get up to 34. So you know what? We are NBA championship contenders this season, plus 22 game turnaround with more games yet to play. There's no doubt in my mind, and there's no doubt in anybody else's mind. Mitch Johnson should be your NBA Coach of the Year. We're going to take a quick commercial break. On the way back, one more Spurs Cheesemas segment, and then we talk about Shohei Ohtani as the baseball season does kick off. Is he the GOAT already? We've debated that before. We'll debate that again. It's Rudy Campos here for the Sports Answer. Answer Now TV. Be sure to go subscribe to it so you don't miss any more of the Sports Answer. We will be back from our first and only commercial break. Salem Surround 210-526-3635. It is the Sports Answer. We'll be back.
You've been watching The Sports Answer, brought to you by Salem Surround. Salem Surround is proud to be San Antonio's premier digital marketing agency, offering a wide array of services like digital audio, email marketing, online reputation management, SEO, social marketing, and more. Visit salemsurround.com, San Antonio, and stay in the game.
So, like, I hear about the Spurs this y Spurs that, y como que esto y esta, pero I never hear about the real Spurs chisme. Nine, por favor.
All right, last Spurs Cheesemas segment again. Salem Surround 210-526-3635. Call them today to get your brand on the right path. Now, this week, Caleb Williams and his agents and his group and everybody said, "Hey, I'm the Iceman. We need to trademark that so I can use it everywhere. I can use it and whatever." Okay, fine. Well, a little known fact here: there's been 3 that I know Icemen that have come before Caleb Williams. Obviously, George Gervin, local San Antonio legend, was the original Iceman in the NBA. When you talked about the Iceman, you knew it was him. UFC fans, Chuck Liddell was the Iceman. As me being a bowler since I was the age of 3, growing up in the sport of bowling, even before Caleb Williams, shout out to Jesper Svensson, who is the Iceman on the PBA tour. And you can actually catch him today on the PBA Masters event that's going to be live on the CW, as the Iceman does compete for a Masters title. But then you've got Caleb Williams coming up and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to trademark this. I'm going to make sure that I'm the only Iceman to be known." Now, let's not forget, George Gervin attempted to do the same a long time ago, but his attorney at the time, I believe, passed away and it just fell through. He never was able to finish it. I get this is the world that we live in right now. You know me, I'm an old man and I'm looking at it like, God, the world we live in now is all social media driven. Now, Jesper is a young guy. He's a young man still. But he's not one out to go out there and say, "Hey, I'm going to trademark this," or like that. He could have easily done it before Caleb. But because Caleb Williams has an ego, like most young players do today, where I need my ego fed, I need my ego to be big, I want my money. Everything, what they say on social media is true. Followers equals currency. So if I can trademark Iceman, then guess what? My social media, my following goes even higher because I can make a lot more money off of Iceman by using it. I'm sorry, Caleb. George is the first and only Iceman that should ever come to anybody's mind. If you can't accept that, I don't know what to tell you. Trademark it all you want, copyright, whatever you want to do. You want to get paid off of it? Fine. You make a few good plays in a season And now you want to be considered the Iceman. Cool as ice. Calm, collective. Always making the right path. Yeah. I get it. Because somebody, maybe an announcer, maybe a national guy, put it in your ear that you were the Iceman. Oh, look at him. He's the Iceman. You thought, oh, that's cool. I'm going to run with it. Then you've got other guys saying, I've never heard of George Gervin. Yet you cover sports. If you don't never heard of George Gervin, where the hell have you been if you've covered sports? Look at the history of sports before you get into media coverage. Do your homework. The only backlash, the only people that are upset that Caleb Williams wants to be the Iceman and, that everybody's giving him a hard time and, oh, who the hell is George Gervin? Comes out of the city of Chicago. Hey, Chicago fans. The Iceman was a part of your Chicago Bulls for 1 year when he was traded from San Antonio to Chicago. And if your GOAT, the greatest Chicago athlete ever, one Air Michael Jordan, knows George Gervin as the Iceman, then there's no reason for you to think anybody else, even Caleb Williams, should be considered it. Sorry, Caleb, there's only one Iceman, and he resides in San Antonio. Last segment, MLB. Let's get into it. So when we talk about MLB GOATs, and again, the season, just got underway. We're going to get into more MLB talk throughout the sports answer here coming in the next few weeks. But when we talk GOATs, a lot of people would say Pete Rose, all-time, hit king, and you talk about guys like Mickey Mantle. I mean, people will throw in Willie Mays. You talk about GOATs, great players, not greatest of all time, but great players. Usually comes down to two guys before Shohei. You talk about Babe Ruth, you talk about Barry Bonds. Those two guys, arguably, are probably the GOATs of the game that a lot of people will come to mind. Now, I have to separate, GOATs because I also, in MLB, it's tough. You've got pitching, you've got fielding, your position players. But when it comes to pitching, to me, Nolan Ryan has records that are never going to be broken. I could throw Nolan in there in the GOAT talk for MLB, but then it's like, well, it's just pitching. So I always separate pitching from position players. And when it comes to the GOAT talk, MLB, Nolan Ryan's obviously the GOAT when it comes to pitching for me. There's really the records that he has are never going to be broken. But when you come to guys like Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and then Shohei Ohtani, Now, Babe Ruth, obviously, I mean, 7-time, he's going to go 7-time World Series champion, AL MVP. I mean, he's got the accolades, man. He's got the accolades. Always considered the greatest of all time. But then you got a player like Barry Bonds that has come in, kind of rewrote a lot of history there. 14-time All-Star. 7-time NL MVP. He had a 21-year career in the MLB. Silver Slug Award, 12-time, 8-time Gold Glove Award. I mean, just ridiculous career for Barry Bonds. Now, let's not get into steroid talk, okay? Leave the steroid talk alone. I don't get that. And he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. We've died on that hill. We're going to die on that hill. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer, regardless what you think about him. But holds the MLB record for most home runs at 762, 73 home runs in one season. He's got an on-base percentage for the single season of 609 on-base percentage. I mean, 2,558 career bases on balls. Walked that many times. Again, it goes on and on. But then let's look at Shohei. And this is the reason why I've highlighted him. In just an 8-year career, Well, 7-year. He's on his 8th season now. Already a 5-time All-Star. Well on his way to beating Barry there. There's no reason why we shouldn't think anything less. And I'm going to put both stats up side by side for me. 2-time World Series MVP, World Series champion, 4-time MVP. Think about that. His 8th season, over half, he's been an MVP of the league. 3 away from Barry. Now, he doesn't have any gold gloves. Obviously, he's not fielding, he's just pitching. But where I think he dominates on the pitching mound, I mean, should consider for gold glove. And I know Maddox is the greatest pitcher when it comes to gold gloves. But, I mean, he doesn't pitch enough games. In fact, he doesn't really pitch at all much anymore. But then you look at the Silver Slug, 4-time Silver Slug award winner, whereas Barry was 12. Again, he's going to catch that. 6-time all MLB first team. I mean, are we really looking at the GOAT in real time? Barry Bonds, I would have never considered a player better than him until now. This is one of those moments as baseball fans, you sit back. No matter if you hate the Dodgers, I don't like the Dodgers. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. My dad was a huge Willie Mays fan. I grew up a Giants fan. I grew up in the Will Clark era. I grew up in one of my favorite all-time baseball players is Kevin Mitchell. I love me some Matt Williams too. That was my big 3 in the San Francisco Giants era. I was there with a Tim Lincecum. You know, they were winning World Series there. Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain. Loved them. But I do not love the Dodgers. But I do love Shohei Ohtani. In real time, we are watching the greatest baseball player of all time. And I want to give a shout out to Shohei. Because in today's sports, we look at young athletes. We look at the antics, the craziness, the cringe-worthy moments of today's AAU basketball games, of today's youth baseball games, little league baseball games, to watching a team in Miami or in Florida that is a little league, football, tots, doing very, very, very disgusting celebrations on the field. Youth sports, it's not about it anymore. It's all about the social media. It's all about let's put it on social media, get all these likes, and let's go viral. But I'm going to give you another reason why I have Ohtani as my GOAT right now. Not because of what he does on the field, but because of the type of person that he is. If you ever want your child who was going to be an athlete to have a role model, it is Shohei Ohtani. He respects the game. He respects his opponents. He respects fans. He's a warm-hearted, great guy. Barry Bonds, not so much. Babe Ruth was a not so much great guy as well. Outside of the gambling thing that Shohei was not even involved in, clean-cut person, great heart, good guy for the game. That's another reason why I have Shohei as my GOAT. Not for what he does on the field, but for the person that he is off the field. He is loved by his teammates. He is loved by players in the league. He has so much respect for the game, for everybody. That is why, in real time, sit back whenever you have a chance to watch a Dodger game. And he's playing, watch him. Because in the blink of an eye, Shohei's career is going to be done. And you can sit back and say, you know what? I was able to watch the greatest baseball player of all time play. Parents, we need to raise our kids when they play as athletes. We need to raise them well and better. Respect the game like Shohei does. And greatness will follow you, just like it's following Shohei Ohtani. That is a sports answer for today. Again, follow Answer Now TV on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so you're not left out. We're going to come to you again. We're starting, I believe it's either this Friday or the following. We're going to start coming to you for the Friday drive, afternoon drive, around 5 o'clock, 5:15. We're going to be doing the Friday drive for that. So you're going to catch us there. You're going to catch us on Sundays. Also, you'll be able to catch Spurs in Focus, Jeff Garcia's new show. That's going to be on Answer Now TV. We've got a lot going on here for the Sports Answer and Answer Now TV. Hit that subscribe button. So for everybody that's a part of Answer Now TV and the Sports Answer, shout out to Salem Surround, salemsurround.com/San Antonio, 210-526-3635. When you've got those sports questions, we've got the Sports Answer. We'll see you guys later.
You've been watching the Sports Answer, brought to you by Salem Surround. Salem Surround is proud to be San Antonio's premier digital marketing agency, offering a wide array of services like digital audio, email marketing, online reputation management, SEO, social marketing, and more. Visit salemsurround.com, San Antonio, and stay in the game.